So we have got Carl on with us. He's just sort of having a little look at how we do the workshops online, as he's just joined us on the boot camps, I think, isn't it, Carl? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Cheers, Helen. Thanks.
No
Nice to
worries.
meet you
So
all.
he's just here to like have a little look at how we do things, that's all. Okay. So well, what we tend to do on these sessions is break them down into the 3 different activities which go with that duty. So we'll cover for this session activity 7, 8, and 9, and then we'll have a little look at duty 3 then at the end. Okay. We'll have a little look how we're going and see where we want a little bit of a break. We'll have a little 10-minute like coffee break or something. Just let me know how you're going. So the aims and objectives for activity 7 are to familiarise yourself with the local and national health services and funding mechanisms. And then the objectives then are to identify key organisations, research local health interventions. So this should hopefully help you understand what's available for you to tap into and what might be missing in your current wellbeing strategy. So when we talk about wellbeing strategy, just let someone in. Hi, Angela. We're just talking about the aims and objectives of the session today. So hopefully you can, when we talk about the community, it might be your workplace, but it might also be out in the community. So it depends, you know, who you work with and how you're going to use what information you're finding today. So it might be the wider community. It might just be within your work. So if you're just doing this purely for colleagues and other people that work in your organisation, your community is going to be your workplace, but it can go out into the community as well. So knowing what's out there and looking for what's out there within the community. So we're going to take a closer look at some of the key health organisations and that we'll be focusing on today. So these are the players that make a significant difference in public health and wellbeing. So we've got, of course, we've got the NHS. We were just having a little chat about that now, weren't we? But being in A&E for 4 hours, wasn't it, Carl? So the NHS, of course, is a major one. It provides general healthcare and specialised services. Then we've also got Public Health England. So they focus more on health promotions and disease prevention, running campaigns to help people stay healthy. You have your local councils. So many councils run their own health initiatives. So I know Warrington's got a massive health initiative, and I work closely with LifeWire. So I know they've got a big initiative up in that area. They have the stop smoking, massive GP referral. So there's lots of different health initiatives then with local councils. And then you might also have community health providers. So these are normally smaller, often charity-based services that fill gaps left by statutory organisations. The combination of these services provide a comprehensive support network, but we need to understand how they access and promote them effectively. So which of these organisations do you feel you or your team engage with the most? Are there any that you're less familiar with? Anyone sort of had anything to do with any of them?
Caitlin and I, our jobs are funded through public health.
So how would you?
So we deal with all of them continually, day in, day out.
Yeah. And how would you communicate with them? Would it be lots of different ways?
Oh yeah, verbally, email. We have links to them all. We do drop-ins. We go and visit them. Yeah, we've got a massive referral structure and network.
Yeah, we invite them into our office as well if they've got any updates, if they need to liaise with us about anything urgent, about how we can interact with community members and get community members to interact with them. It's very much a two-way street. With we go see them, they come see us, to keep each other in the loop.
Yeah, definitely. So another great example then is the NHS mental health service, and that's normally sort of access for your GP referral. So does anyone know if your employers sort of have anything like that or know how to access that?
We've got a dedicated mental health support line that's just for our employees.
And how would you access that?
It's a phone number.
Our phone number. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that would just be sent out to all the staff.
Yeah, it's on the walls, it's in our hubs, it's in our community spaces, it's all over. And plus we all get given it when we join.
Oh, that's good. We sort of do stuff like that as well. And we have our own counselling service as well. So we've got 6 free sessions, and actually they've now rolled that out so learners can access that as well if they want to, which is quite a good thing. Anyone else? Anyone else sort of got any of these that they deal with?
We have something similar to what you've already mentioned. Just it's an app that we have. You sign up to the app, and that's just the mental health, counselling, financial advice. It's got all sorts in there.
And how it's just an app, and
it's an app,
sort of
yeah.
like
So you just get on, and it's a 24/7. Just you can get on, message somebody, and then you can either have just keep chatting to them over the app, so that you're just having a web chat with them, or they can ring you, or you can do it so that you can ring them like a FaceTime call, so that you can actually see who you're talking to.
Oh, that's good. That's a good thing.
So that's available to everybody.
Yeah, that's a good thing to have, isn't it? So what we're going to do now, I did send out an email with some case studies on. So what we're going to do now is I'll probably put you in a breakout room, I think, and we're just going to have a little look at the case studies and then have a little discussion. So basically, you're going to discuss how you would implement a similar mental health support initiative in your own organisation, and you're going to focus on service mapping, feedback collection, and how you'd promote an initiative to ensure your staff are aware of what available services are out there. So I don't know if you've got access to that worksheet. I can pop a copy in the chat. Let me just find it. Did I add it actually? Let me just find it. Has everyone got the email that I sent? Anyone? You'll have to. You need that now. You've got it, yeah?
Yeah.
If I just pop a copy up, you can take a screenshot of it. But if I just share this one a second. Can you see the case study there? Does anyone want me to just send it out quickly to you?
I have got it.
You got it, yeah?
I've got it. Yeah, I've got it.
Perfect. All you need to have a little do is just read through the sheet. I'll pop into your groups then just to make sure you're okay. And you're just going to present it back then after. So if I just do the rooms. Now, I've never done these before, so bear with me. There we go. So you should go into your rooms now, and then I'll pop in just to make sure you're okay with what we're doing. Yeah, everyone's Chloe going. You're not going to one. It's sending you. Hang on, let me sign you. I don't know why it hasn't sent you to one.
I'm not familiar with this either.
Sign a participant. Oh, why won't it let you access a breakout room? Right, there you are. You were saying you weren't a participant. So let me see if I could send you now. It's a bit weird, isn't it? It's saying you can't access breakout room.
I wonder if, I don't know if this might be right, but I've joined off a different email, but I don't know if maybe it's because
Ah,
it's not
maybe. What's the email?
the one I'm on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's Achievers2015 at outlook.com.
Let me add it. That might be what it is.
Yeah, I just wondered then. This
What
is
was
my
it?
first one.
Achievers?
Yeah, 2015
2015. It's
at Outlook.
outlook.com.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on, I didn't do that. Right, let me send you that one
Yeah.
and see if that helps. They'll all be in there going, oh my God, what are we supposed to be doing? You might need to jump off and jump back on. See if that works.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I'll just pop in and then I'll pop back out and put you in a room.
Okay.
Are you back? No, I still doing the same.
No, still doing it.
Yeah. Very strange, isn't it? Another room. Let me just pop in that one a sec. I'll be back now, 2 seconds.
Yeah.
God. Right, let me have a little look again.
If that fails, I could join from my work email on my phone. Maybe that'll work. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it might just be that.
Yeah.
I might just ask Tom. Might ask Tom. Oh, he's in a call. I'll just ask good old Google. Yeah, it might be. It's either an older version of Teams or an unsupported device by the looks. Oh, you're on mute.
I said I'll try joining on my phone now and then see if that does anything.
All right, then. Oh, I didn't mean to
do like disabilities and stuff.
Oh.
Oh.
You need to find somebody you need to talk to, but that's it.
Oh, I think it's brought you back.
Kicked us out.
Did you want a little bit
I know.
longer? Sorry. I have to put it on a timer, I think. Did you want a little bit longer?
I was okay. I don't know whether Angela.
They on the Wednesday doing things.
Do you want to so if we just go with Caitlin's team then, what sort of things did you come up with?
We were just kind of discussing how employees would access it, because Angela was saying that she's a mental health first aider, and that she's kind of the go-to person if people are struggling, but then there's a limitation because obviously you're not in a position as a first aid trainer to do necessarily referrals, so it kind of does limit you like professionally as to how far you can take that boundary, and it's more signposting. Is that right, Angela? Have I got that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then from my point of view, it's a little bit different because obviously our job is to signpost and refer people, so we have that little bit more freedom to actually do the referrals. But we wouldn't do that for our employees, but we do have the counselling service that Vicky mentioned earlier that we're made aware of. We've got debriefing services if we have anything too heavy. We have training so that we're able to go into situations and cope with those situations and know how to kind of like mentally support and protect ourselves. And as Vicky said before, because we're funded by public health, we do have quite a robust support network for employees.
Yeah. Did you sort of like identify anything that was missing?
Not from my side, I don't think. I don't know about Angela.
What about you, Angela? Did you sort of identify anything missing?
I think in some ways, just for my side, the awareness of the help that people can get. Like even just the fact that we have the mental health first aiders, I don't think it's as well known as it could be, and not for the want of trying. It's not like we haven't put out that we have the ability to be able to go and speak to people, but I think that is something that's missing. And then just sometimes it is a little bit frustrating because that I can't do more, and it's literally just you need to do this, and then it's kind of left. I will still have catch ups with people, whether that be sometimes I've had people where I've caught up with them daily, I've also had times where I've caught up with them on a monthly basis just to check in with them and see how they're doing. But they're normally people that are a little bit further on. They've been to a GP and they're having, they've got people they can speak to outside. But other people that are still a bit like, I know I need the help, but they're not ready to take that next step and go to the doctors and kind of wave their arms and admit the fact that they need any kind of help. So I've had times where I've caught up with people daily, monthly. I've also then now don't catch up with anybody really because they've got what they needed and moved. But I think for us, it's definitely that it's not well known enough. And people are a little bit scared when we tell them about their TELUS Health, like they're going to get, I can't tell them anything because if I tell them, they're going to tell my manager and then my manager's not going to think I can do this. And it's just the reassurance of that is completely confidential. Unless you are in some sort of immediate danger, your life is in danger, nobody's going to say anything. I think that's the biggest thing for us is just the fact that people are scared that the managers are going to fall out and feel that they're going to be thought less of because they've opened up to the TELUS Health that we have. But other than that, I don't think we're all right.
Yeah. And then what about the other group then? What did you sort of come up with?
We were just looking at it kind of hypothetically, really, because obviously I work the same place as Caitlin. We are very well covered.
Yeah.
We even have a team that are partly funded by the NHS dealing with mental health on site. So really, we're pretty good. But I suppose it's making sure that other places have the same. And when Andrew was talking, it sounds like JD have got some really good things already implemented there as well. Loads of good schemes that he was aware of.
Yeah.
To refer to.
Yeah.
So couldn't really find any gaps.
No, couldn't find any.
Not really, no, because I mean, our whole job is about well-being, so it's something that's visited frequently.
Yeah. What about outside the box then? So sort of things like people accessing transport or actually accessing mental health services if they didn't know where to go. What sort of things do you think are there?
That's kind of what our job has been put in place for, to make sure that people who don't know what the services are find out. So we are, it's quite a unique role, and it's probably only on Wirral, which is why people aren't familiar with it. So we've got a very visible presence in most community spaces, plus we knock on doors, so we find people who possibly never come out or access support. We actually go and seek them out. Plus the amount of leaflets that go out into doctors' surgeries, everything. And then what we are is we're that link between the person and any form of support they might need, including mental health.
Yeah.
So they use us as the kind of, they use us for the referrals essentially, or we give them the information to make it themselves if that's possible. But if not, that's what our job is here to do.
Yeah. And what about you, Andrew? Did you sort of notice anything like that might be missing or is hard to access?
I think because we're only just starting out with obviously the wellbeing side of things within JD. There's still a lot of things that is being pushed out, but it's communication to like the colleagues. So there was a lot of communication pushed out before something called TELUS Health, which they give like counselling sessions and other wellbeing stuff as well. But the way they communicated it was via like our internal email systems and on our employee platform, which a lot of our younger employees don't really access. I mean, there's an app, but the app only shows you like your pay slips, your shifts you're doing, stuff like that. So that's one of the barriers that we have in our company, especially with the younger employees who don't kind of access the platform like probably other older employees would do.
Yeah. So have you got like two different apps, one for the TELUS and one for your wages, or is it all in one app?
It's two different apps. So one's TELUS Health, which is like an external company.
Yeah.
So it's nothing to do with JD. So everything you tell them is kind of private and confidential. And obviously then we've got the JD app, which obviously then is like our wage slips, per clock in, clock out, all that sort of thing. So there's that. And obviously, I do try my best to push out communication with colleagues, but a lot of them kind of don't know where to start unless they come and speak to you first. So I say communication, especially with JD at the moment, is a massive key issue with pushing things out for wellbeing and mental health.
Yeah, definitely. Jamie, listening to everybody else, is there anything like you sort of like can pick out for your company?
I need to do a bit of research on it, to be fair, because I don't think there is all that much, to be honest. I know in them sort of circumstances, if a colleague needs some support, then they get pointed into the right direction. So yeah, I'm not familiar with what organisations they are though, or how they would actually go about it, to be honest.
So that'd be a good one for you to have a little look at now for
Yeah.
GT3 then. So when we have a little look later, you know a little bit more information about it then. Good. If I just share my screen again. So just finishing off this activity 7 then. So from understanding health services roles, funding is key to improving community health. So we should sort of have a better understanding of the statutory services that are available out there. So maybe a little bit of research into what you have got for those that don't know what's out there, and then look at ways that we can improve these services. So I know sort of like in my area, probably transport might be, so if you've got all the services out there, so you've got your mental health, you've got your GPs, what other services. I think we've got physio where you can go and self-serve, self-cert yourself as physio, but then sometimes it's that transport element, isn't it? So we live up on the side of the mountain, so buses aren't very often, they're only like once an hour. So that might be sort of a hindrance for some people, especially older people. And then walking might not be an option for them because Pennygon Hill is probably like this. So that could be sort of something that's lacking. So it's just looking at what's out there, how we can utilise these services and what we can sort of pinpoint that's missing. So remember, the better informed we are about these services, the more effective they'll be for our teams in the community out there. Any questions about activity 7? Nope. So now we're going to look at activity 8, which is looking at voluntary and charity organisations. Now, I know not everybody works with volunteers, but it's just having that understanding that if you went on to another role or you worked with them, that you'd know, what's out there, what they're entitled to. So we've got different voluntary organisations like Mine, Shelter, Age UK. I know the Warrington Wolves, so I work closely with them as well. I know they have volunteers that come in and do some work. I know a couple of them started off as volunteers and then got roles. So sometimes it's a starting point for a lot of people, volunteers, where they can volunteer, learn a little bit about that role, and then actually, get a job out of it at the end. So we'll be looking at how these organisations fit into our wellbeing strategy and the importance of keeping information about them correct and accessible. So by working with these organisations, we can enhance the support we provide to our teams and ensure everyone has access to the resources they need. So the aims and objectives. Our aims are to introduce you to the organisation and understand how to keep information about them up to date. And our objectives are to identify key organisations, understand their roles, and ensure that information is regularly updated so staff can access these services when needed. So as voluntary organisations often offer more specialised services, it's crucial that we keep our staff informed about them. So by the end of the session, you'll have a clearer understanding of how to engage with volunteer organisations and ensure your staff know what is out there and what you can access. So we're going to highlight some key volunteer organisations that provide essential service for staff's wellbeing. So Mind is one of them. So has anyone ever heard of Mind? Yeah. When I worked in DW, I think we did a spin-a-thon for Mind and raised a couple of £1,000, I think. So they offer mental health support, including counselling and workshops. There's also shelter. So they focus on housing advice and support, and they can be crucial for employees facing housing insecurities. And then you've got Age UK. So they support older adults, providing everything from care to social activities, care advice, and that sort of stuff. So these organisations often fill gaps left by statutory services. So it's important to know how they can complement what we offer internally. So have you noticed sort of any gaps in your current wellbeing programme that one of these organisations could maybe fill? Anyone?
What I would say is most of those organisations are franchises, so you need to really know what's in your local area. So for instance, we use Wirral Mind and Wirral Age UK. Now we never use shelter purely because it is absolutely impossible to get through to them.
Yeah.
Because we've tried many times. So you really need to look at local support rather than national. National is pointless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what sort of shelter is in your area?
So we've got we have to basically go through the council pretty much with our housing options. There is a charity that's set up called Whitechapel, but they're very restricted on what they can actually do to support, but they are like a drop-in that you can go to. But again, that's normally a job that falls to people in our role to find housing advice. But that's the worst thing, and shelter is absolutely dreadful, to be honest. in our experience.
In your experience,
anyway.
Yeah. So it's looking at what's out there in your
There's
area.
good information on their website. There is really good information, but for actual physical support, you really need to look locally because everywhere's housing is very, very different.
Yeah.
Crossing like regional boundaries.
Sometimes it's council and sometimes it's local.
Yeah, it's up there. But they've all got very different ways of accessing it. So it's finding out. And for us, it's okay when we just look at Wirral. But if you maybe are working in an area that you're kind of on the edge of a couple of boundaries, you might need to look at what's around from probably slightly out your area, possibly if that's where people are living.
Yeah. Anybody else sort of got any key voluntary or charity organisations that they might work with? Have you ever done any charity work for any of the sort of like the Mind or mental health initiatives that's out there?
JD have their own foundation, which they work with a lot of charities as well. There's one called Papyrus, I think it is, and there's obviously suicide prevention and stuff like that, which is some of the stuff that we do kind of push out as well, like in stores to people who need it.
Yeah. And would there be sort of any organisation out there then to help with maybe housing, finances?
That again will go through TELUS Health. They deal with, like I said previously, mental health, but they also do financial support. They also help with obviously well-being and stuff. But there's also a retail charity as well. I can't remember what they're called, but they help with like housing and grants and stuff like that. So, but like for me personally, after my mum passed away, we obviously, because it was a sudden death, we didn't have the money to pay for the funeral. So they helped with a grant towards my mum's obviously funeral. So they help with stuff like that as well.
Oh, that's good. What were they called?
Off the top of my head, I can't remember. It's been a while since I've used them.
Yeah. So it's looking at out there, what's out there that you can sort of access to help you and make life a little bit easier, isn't it? So we're going to look at case study 2 now. So this one's going to involve a retail company that faces high employee turnover due to financial stress. They've implemented a financial wellbeing program by partnering with a local financial advice charity. So if you can access that worksheet again, I'll pop you into some breakout rooms and we'll do the same sort of thing. So about 10-15 minutes to have a little read over, and then we'll just chat back then after. Retail trust, was it, Andrew? Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So have you got the case study 2 to hand? I think, Jamie, we're gonna have the same issue again. Is it still saying that you're
I'll try my other email.
all right then?
Oh, something's going on.
Oh, what's it doing that for? I don't know what it's doing. It just suddenly. It like sent you all and then it sent you all back. It's weird. I don't know why it's doing that.
It's still not working now.
No. It's saying this person can't access breakout rooms.
Oh.
I'll just jump in on them and then we'll have a chat about one if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just make sure they're all right. Just sharing this one. Can you see that?
The case study.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this case study focus on how a company addresses financial stress amongst its employees. So what sort of things? What sort of things do you know your organisation might have in place for stuff like tackling debt counselling and stuff like that?
I know that it does exist. They do have something set up where, you know, they point you in the direction of someone that can help, but I wouldn't offhand know what that is in a sense.
So it's having a little research on what's out there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think in our company you can, if you are really struggling, I think they will allow you to ask for a little bit of like wage.
yeah,
So you can have, I think it's like a quarter or something you can ask for, and then you obviously
right,
have to pay it back in your next wage.
yeah,
I know we've got the counselling services as well. But I'm the same. I'm not really sure if there's anything about financial advice. So that might be something for me to have a little research for.
yeah. Yeah, it's just you kind of recall it being mentioned,
Yeah.
but you don't. If you don't ever use it yourself, you don't all kind of
You don't always know.
necessarily.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's something good to know though for this role, isn't it? So that you know
definitely.
knowing
Yeah,
exactly what's out there and exactly what people can access and how to
yeah,
access it as well, isn't it?
that's right.
Something to think about how financial stress impacts on individual. Yeah, because if someone's thinking, oh gosh, I'm going to lose my house, that's going to affect their work, isn't it, as well?
Yes, that's right.
Or they might start having time off because they're worrying about it, which then will affect their pay, which will help, inconvenience them even more or put them into
Yeah.
more debt. So what things do you think could be put in place then?
Definitely. I mean, straight off the fact that I don't know what support exactly there is there, it needs to be shown more and advertised more to staff members.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
How do they
Um,
do that in your workplace? How would they sort of put things out there? Have you got a notice board or?
so yeah, I mean, we have the generic notice boards and things, but generally things like that would go out through email. So yeah, it's usually that's the case. I can't recall any other methods that it goes out with. So I think emails can get lost a bit sometimes, can't
They
they?
can, yeah,
You
definitely.
know,
Yeah, so I know JD have got like a big massive, they're quite big on the wellbeing now. They've sort of started doing lots of
Mm.
things. They've got that app that they were talking about, but they've also got like big massive notice boards with lots of different things on. So they'll have like a suicide hotline, who to contact, counselling. So they're all good things to put in place, aren't they?
Yeah,
And a visual point so people know where to go and they've got that visual point to look at.
yeah.
Have you ever sort of like worked with any voluntary organisations?
Yeah, as you were saying, I was trying to think off the top of my head because we're a social enterprise, so we work with charities. So I'm pretty sure you brought up there, was it Age UK? Was it Age? No, Minds, was it?
Yeah, mind. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we've sort of promoted their initiatives and things towards our members and things. Um, and what we generally do for things like that is like we dedicate a week to it, sort of thing, and we'll put posters around the place, and kind of really just point point people towards it and stuff. We put on fitness challenges. We did, I think it was swim 22 or something it was called.
All right.
I can't remember who that was with though, off the top of my head. And yeah, that was really good. So yeah, they do jump on a lot of these initiatives and stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah. We've done obviously we've done the coffee morning as well. Is that Macmillan coffee morning?
yeah,
We did
yeah,
that. And Pudsey Day, I suppose we used to do. I know that's
yeah,
look at looking at the more children, isn't it, that one? But then I think mental health and stuff can come into that, can't it?
yeah,
The children's mental health.
yeah, true.
So it's just looking at then how you'd ensure that service information is kept up to date, because like you said, emails can get lost, can't they?
Yeah.
So the app's a good thing, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. I can't remember his name. The gentleman that was speaking earlier, saying, yeah, he was saying that he's obviously his company have got an app. We've got an app as well, and that is similar to what he was saying. It deals with all your pay slips and everything like that, but
Yeah.
no kind of messages go out on that kind of thing. So
No, I think, and sometimes it's easier, isn't it, if you've got a messaging service. My husband's company have got a good one, but I can't think what it's called. And that's a good mental health app.
Yeah.
I think you tend to find the bigger companies have things like that, don't you? The big, large companies.
Yeah.
I can't think what his app was called, but that one was quite good. And they have like it's not just about mental health though. They have perks on there as well, which I think that picks up your mental health as well, doesn't it? So like it might be you get 9% off if you go and shop in Primark. You sort of buy a voucher.
Yeah.
And then there's other things then where you can do like I don't know, being mindful for 5 minutes and doing some breathing, or there was like a quiz on something, and it was understanding different mental health issues or like rating yourself. So that was quite a good app. But I can't think. I thought I had it on my phone, but I haven't. So I can't remember what it was called. And I know there's one at the moment on the App Store which is free called Balance.
Oh, okay.
So that one's I think because mental health is such a big thing at the moment, and companies are sort of talking about it, in NHS is talking about it a lot, aren't they? They've done done it so that it's free for everyone for a year.
Right.
And that's breathe, calm and anxiety stress release, that one is.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it's like. I've never done it. But for some reason they put it free for a year. It's been free for a year for a while as well.
Oh, right.
So there's lots of different things on there. So it's good when you find stuff that's free, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a good way to get people on board with it, isn't it? Because usually someone says that you've got to pay for something, and that's an immediate deterrent.
Yeah, definitely. And then communication strategies. What sort of communication strategies do you think would work best?
As in within our company to its staff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I say obviously there's always a place for email, I think. Obviously it works for some people. I think probably more messages could probably go out to each kind of branch, and then it's then put the responsibility is then put on that branch manager as such to then relay messages onto the smaller team. Yeah, I think that could be something.
When I worked in DW, I used to do a newsletter.
Yeah.
So I did a members newsletter and a staff newsletter.
Right.
I used to do a monthly one. So then I would hope then that sort of got the messages out there as well. And then the members one would be on the table in the cafe or on reception. And then the staff one emailed it out, but also gave everyone a copy, I suppose, because it was a couple of years ago, and we don't like to sort of print paper these days, do we? But that worked quite well, because like for the staff one, then you could put a little bit about anything that was going on, any challenges, those gym challenges that they used to like the staff to get involved in, anything mental health, mind, anything like that.
Yeah, that's now you say that. I actually do a monthly newsletter
for
our district. And it's generally aimed towards our members and our client as well. So I mean, there's been a few occasions where we've been running with other kind of charities, and I promote that on the bottom. I'll just put put a picture of their logo and just kind of say what we've been doing. But nothing really for the staff, so it's probably a good thing to think about, really. So yeah.
Has it got to a point then where people were like, "Where's the newsletter then this month?"
Yeah, that's
They look
it.
for
Yeah,
it, don't they?
I've really kind of made a rod for my own back with it, really, because I used to send it pretty much on the 1st of every month. And then now, if I kind of miss one or two days deep into the next month, people are asking, "Where is it then?"
Yeah.
If it's been a particular busy month. So
Yeah, definitely.
Hang on a sec.
Yeah, it's making
We're
sure you
back.
put that time in, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. Just wait for everyone to come back. There we go. I think everyone's back. Yeah. So how was that? Do you want to talk about what you said, Angela?
Do I?
Do I?
No, I mean, we were just well, we got on a bit of a tangent at the end, but anyway, like you know me, I always do. Anyway, we were just saying with the financial help, it's very, very difficult to know what organisations to go to with any kind of financial help, because it's not. So, like with mental health, there are plenty of different little organisations and little avenues you can go down. But for me personally, in my community, if you like, if it was any kind of financial help, the only thing I could wholeheartedly suggest for people to do would be the telehealth, because they have the financial support bit on that telehealth, and that would be all I'd be. We did say that there's the citizens advice as well, but within the area that I'm in, it's extremely busy, and I have had people that I've spoken to before now that I've said, you know, like, you can go and see them. They have an office, but they never do appointments or anything. It's all just drop-in. And I've known people be stood outside the office for 2 hours and you still don't get seen, and then you get turned away because they can't see you. And then that just builds on their frustration. And then they're like, forget it, I can't, you know, I've tried to get help and nobody's prepared to help me. And it's just because they're just so overwhelmed. So then I wouldn't want to put somebody in that situation where they might be like, well, I'll go and see the citizens advice then, and then they get turned away because they haven't got time to see them. And then that just has a knock-on effect then for other aspects. So even if they're not feeling overwhelmed and depressed about things, that might then trigger their feelings that leads them down that path, because of the fact that I've advised them to go there, so I wouldn't feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
So for me personally, it would simply be the telehealth that we've got, because it is fantastic, that telehealth. So that would be the only thing I'd be prepared to access in my area.
Have you ever known anyone to use it for the financial?
Quite recently, yes, because there's been quite a few people in here that have used it. We've had some internal things happen that I won't go into, but there's been quite a few people trying to get advice and things like that on that telehealth. Yes.
And is it
really,
has
really
it
good.
helped them?
Personally, I've never used it, but I have been with other people in my role as a wellbeing champion or mental health first aider.
Yeah.
I have sat with people that have said, you know, like, I can't do this. Well, I don't even know how to use that telehealth. And I'm like, I'm here and we can do it together. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
So I have used it with other people, but I've never used it personally.
And did they like sort of get any help from it? Did it help them? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good point then, isn't it? It's a good place
It's
to put them to.
definitely, it is. I think they are trying. I've been working for JD for 12 years, and now we're absolutely head and shoulders above what we were when I first started with regards to mental health and well-being, and trying to help colleagues in any aspect, whether it be in the stores or the warehouse or the offices, wherever. The absolute head and shoulders above it where they used to be.
Yeah, definitely. It is. I think lockdown did a lot for mental health and awareness and stuff, though, didn't it? Yeah.
Definitely.
Anything to add, Caitlin?
Yeah, we were just discussing about obviously citizens advice, like Angela said, and how we're quite lucky in our area because obviously we're out in the community, we know when they're doing like little side drop-ins. So they might be at a local library for a couple of hours. So we would signpost people there rather than the main office. And we can support like directly with financial, say if they're in like council tax arrears, we can make that phone call with them and obviously not do it for them, but we can step in as kind of like a moral support aspect. And as employees, obviously, because we know all these organisations and little sneaky drop-ins for the community members, we can access them ourselves as well. And there is a debt team and a benefits team in our office that's based under our charity mother organisation as well, that we can go and have a word with if we need to. So but as Andrew was saying, you do have to be careful with obviously financial support, because you've got to make sure that they're like accredited and that they actually know what they're talking about, especially if we're signposting people to them as well. Can't just be someone's mate who's good with money.
Definitely. And what about communication strategies then? So getting that information out there, what do you feel is good or what's bad?
Well, I believe Vicky's put it in the chat, but we have the Wirral Info Bank, which is, we've got the team that maintain it and run it in our office, and Involve created it, and it's just a yellow page directories of all the services. I think it's all across the Liverpool City region, isn't it, Vicky? It's not just the Wirral.
Yeah, I think you're right. Mainly Wirral.
Mainly Wirral, but it does branch out a little bit. And it's anyone can Google it and go on it, and it's updated on a regular basis, and it'll always say last updated June 2024, so that we know that it's all maintained, and there's whole spreadsheets and everything that goes on in the background, and phone calls and emails and everything, of making sure that these services are still available to people and how exactly to get in contact with them.
Oh, good. And what about you, Angela, in the workplace? What about how do they sort of make people aware of the Talis app or what's out there?
We've had newsletters that kind of, we have one that goes out. I mean, the thing is with the ones that we send out, there's always things on it about the Talis Health and stuff like that, but not everybody accesses it, because it normally gets emailed out to you, or it's on the second app that we have, like, that does your wage slips and everything else, and you can access it on there. But like was said earlier, it's not everybody does it. So the younger ones tends to be, they're all only on it, they're only using it on their phone, they're only interested in, or I just want to check my clock-ins for make sure I've only had enough time for, the allotted time for my break. So check my clock in, check how much I'm going to get paid, so I know how much I've got to go shopping on Friday or whatever it is. So they're not accessing it enough. So like, I mean, I don't think I'm old, but I always get on mine on my laptop, so I can see the whole platform that we've got. So I can get onto the things where, you can see the Talis Health, you can see all the other things we've got going on with weird little podcasts that they've done and things like that, that'll have information on it, which is great, but not enough people use it. We also have, I mean, I'm in the DC at Kingsway, so we've got TVs dotted about with bits of information on. And we've also got message boards and whatnot that we've got dotted about as well. We've got some in one side of the warehouse and some in the other side of the warehouse. And most of the time there's a wellbeing bit on there, and that's always got the Talis Health thing on it. So it is dotted about everywhere. But as part of my duty one, I did a survey of people here and asked, do you feel supported at work? And if not, why? But then I also said, do you know where to get the support should you need it? And there was people on that survey that said no. So we've clearly not done enough to put it out there. Now, for me, I don't know why we can't have drop-ins like other things I have, to get a couple of the mental health first aiders and just do drop-ins of come and see us and see what it's about, because people don't even know what it is. They don't know what a mental health first aider is, and B, what they're there for, and how you would talk to one. So for me, I think we should do that.
That could be one of your duties.
A gap for me.
That could fit into one of your duties properly. So how do you feel like you could sort of like do that strategy, get that out there?
Well, I mean, like I say, if it's just you can always just do the drop-ins, like I said, so that you can actually tell people. And then at the same time as you're telling them, they might not want to speak to me. They could look at me and think, "Do you know, I'm not speaking to you again ever because you don't know how to shut up, so I'm not talking to you." But if you're making sure you're telling them about the teller's health,
Yeah,
then at least they're aware of that, because there'll be plenty of them that haven't got a clue.
yeah, definitely.
So, and I've seen that, like I said, in the survey that I did for the duty one, I've seen that there are
Mhm.
people that don't know where they're getting the help from. So if they don't know where they're getting it from, and that was only, I think I only sent that survey out to 20 people. I got 18 replies, and out of that 18 people, out of of the 20 that I sent out, if they're saying that they haven't got a clue where they're accessing any kind of support from, how many other people are there? Because there's a few hundred people in this warehouse, and if
Yeah.
out of that, if there was a few out of that 20 that don't know where it is, how many others don't know where to get it? So
Yeah,
it needs to be
exactly.
plastered all over the place, if you
Yeah,
ask me.
yeah,
In all the communal areas. Toilets would be a good thing. Everybody goes for a wee. So,
yeah,
but
yeah,
that for me
definitely.
is where you'd put it. And I don't know exactly how I'd do it off the top of my head, but that's with the drop-ins, but that's how I'd do it anyway.
But you're right, Angela, because it's all well and good people implementing these really good ideas, but if you don't keep on reminding people or new
Yep.
starters, then
Yeah,
what's the point?
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Is it part of your new starter process?
I would say no, but I don't want to put money on it, but I would say no.
No. So I know you take
That's
a lot.
big. No.
No, Andrew saying no. So I know you have like a lot starting now, don't you know, because Christmas rush and stuff like that. Which your
Yeah.
agency, would they have access to it as well then?
I don't actually think I know if the agency do or not. I don't think they do, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
I think they should, but
Yeah.
I don't know if they do.
Okay.
Maybe I'll have another survey and I'll go and ask the agency staff.
Yeah. That'd be a good
Do
idea.
you have access to this?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And what about Andrew and Victoria's group? What did you sort of like come up with?
So I mentioned about retail trusts, which again I think I mentioned briefly. Obviously, they help with like grants and stuff. And also JD partnered with someone called Salary Finance, where they offer low interest loans to the employees, and it gets deducted out of their wages when they get paid. And I think Victoria mentioned something about a credit union. I think, is that correct?
Yeah, a credit union. We haven't got that through our work. My partner does. He works for another third sector organisation, but they're a really good thing to implement because it's very safe borrowing and it comes out your wage before you get it. So it's a really good way for people who haven't got, who aren't great at budgeting, to start budgeting, because you can only borrow what you've kind of got, but you keep your savings safe. It's a really safe way of lending, which would be really good for more places to do it, because credit unions are really, really good. And I suppose thinking about linking up, it's similar to obviously what Caitlin said, but we also use the one like Christians Against Poverty, which, although it is a Christian group, they deal with all faiths and no faith. It's not there's no requirements to access them, but if you can link up with them, they quite often do a lot of work all over the country, and they're fantastic for budgeting and debt advice as well. Really, really helpful. So building up a link with them, and again, we're really lucky with our Citizens Advice Bureau here that we've got good links with them, and also we know where their drop-ins are going to be, so we can direct people to them rather than just doing a referral. We can say, look, if you actually go on this date, you can speak to one. Or we've also got them in all our food banks as well, have citizens advice helpers, advisors in there. So again, we're all done quite a lot to make sure that you can get financial advice, although they're obviously very, very sought after. So even when you're getting the help, it's never going to be always immediate because the demand is just so high.
Yeah, definitely. And what about you, Jamie? So we had a little discussion about a couple of things. What sort of things did you sort of come up with?
Yeah, so I obviously said that I wasn't kind of aware on what avenues we'd have to go down for financial advice and things, but I knew that something does actually exist. One thing we kind of spoke about is how we kind of really need to improve on getting the message out there for staff.
Yeah.
Because me myself not being aware of what is out there just probably shows that it's not really getting pushed around as much as it should be.
Yeah. Just knowing what's out there, knowing what you can access. Yeah. Definitely. I'll stop sharing that one. Right. So just looking then at voluntary organisations and the local health projects. So voluntary organisations play a key role in complementing the services offered by statutory providers, and keeping services information updated and accessible is crucial for ensuring staff can benefit from the resources. So it's just making sure that we know what's out there so that we can roll that out to our staff and people we work with. So now we should have a better understanding of the roles these organisations play and how they can support our staff's wellbeing and maybe the people we work with, so not necessarily the staff. Engaging these organisations can provide a more holistic approach to staff wellbeing. Any questions about activity 8? No. Do you want to have a quick coffee break? Yeah, everyone's like, yeah, please. Do we have 10 minutes? Should we come back at 10 to? Yeah, perfect. All right, then I'll see you in 10.
Hey, Helen, you're right.
Yeah, not bad.
After the call, is it possible to have a quick chat with you? Is that all right?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, is everyone back? Oh, there we go. Hope everyone's refreshed. So we're going to move on to activity 8. So this is knowledge of local health projects. Okay, so we're going to move on to voluntary and charity organisations, which often play a vital role in supporting wellbeing. These are organisations that step in when statutory services might not be enough or where specialised help may be needed. So voluntary organisations, like we've sort of said before, Mind Shelter in UK, but then like Victoria said, maybe looking more at your local areas because, like you said, they might be too busy. So it's just looking at what's out there and what's available for you to access. And these organisations usually rely heavily on up-to-date information to stay relevant and accessible to people who need them. So our aims here are to introduce voluntary and charity organisations and to the need to update info and information on them so that staff can access these services where needed. And the objectives then are identifying the organisations to understanding roles and keeping information updated. So by the end of the session, you should have a clear understanding of how to engage with voluntary organisations and ensure your staff know what's available to them. Not just your staff, though, the people you work with as well. I'm on the wrong one, sorry. We just did 8, didn't we? Sorry. So activity 9, sorry, is introducing community service mapping and identifying service gaps. So this is sort of like looking at what's out there, what's available and what maybe might not be available. So, you know, where are the gaps? Like I said earlier, transport's probably a gap for us, and counselling. So when we lost my mum, my one niece did go a little bit over the rails, but when we took her to the doctors and tried to get her counselling, it was like something silly, like a 6-week waiting list for her, and she needed that support there and then, really. So it's sort of like, what gaps are out there and how can we sort of bridge those gaps and identify them, or what other help is out there that we could have maybe put her in touch with or shared with her. And then the objectives then are to map services and identify these gaps, because you might be able to go to maybe a different town and find something somewhere or some support that will help you. So by the end of this activity, you'll have a clear understanding of where improvements are needed in your organisation's wellbeing services. So mapping community services. So we'll look at the different types of services we should map, including health, social support and educational resources. The health services might include things like your GP, mental health services. Social support could be housing, childcare, and then educational support should focus on training and personal development opportunities for staff. So is there plenty of sort of personal development within your organisation, do you feel? I feel like everyone's organisations are quite good with education and supporting your professional development. And GD have quite a big plan, don't they, Angela? Yeah. So by mapping these services, we can see the full range of support available to staff and identify where the gaps are. Service mapping helps us ensure staff have access to broad spectrums of wellbeing support. So which of these services do you think are underutilised then by your staff? You've probably already touched on the app, haven't you, Angela? Anybody else got any sort of services that might not be used by the staff or people that they support?
I mean, just in our local area, I think ours is a similar story to your own, and probably everybody's, is the counselling. If you try and get anybody to go to the GP and be referred for counselling, the waiting lists are astronomical. From a personal side, my youngest has really suffered, and we've been backwards and forwards to the doctor, who basically just wanted to start throwing medication at her. And when I first took her, she was 13, and I was like, you are not putting my 13-year-old on antidepressants. You can forget it, because there's nowhere to go after that. If you think, like as soon as you, and I'm not saying that antidepressants don't have their place, because they absolutely do, but I don't think throwing antidepressants at a 13-year-old was appropriate. But she was referred to another service. They then had to do 6 visits with her so that they could assess where she was up to see whether or not then she was eligible to be then referred to somewhere else. And then that waiting list had started again, and it's just like, you absolutely taking the mickey. She's 16 now, and she's absolutely miles away from where she was previous when I first started taking her to the doctors. But that's only happened because I paid for private counselling, because trying to get anywhere with the counselling that we could have got then was absolutely just not available. There's so much that they need to, so much little box ticking exercises, if you like, that they have to do. And if you don't tick enough boxes, they're not interested. And you have to start the whole process again. You have to go back to the doctors and they'll go, oh, actually, well, then we'll refer her to this. And then the whole thing starts again. By the time you finish with that, it was just like, where am I going to get to? She's literally sitting and telling me that she doesn't want to be here anymore. She's literally sitting there and telling me she's thought about suicide. And this is a 13-year-old. I'm like, what 13-year-old should be thinking like that? None. So I paid for the private counselling, because that was the only way we were going to get her the help. So locally to us, counselling is a massive gap for me. Not that it's not available, it's just not enough of it available. And that's probably the same in a lot of places, because there has been so much focus on people's mental health, and people are more, and not everybody, some people are still quite ashamed to speak about it.
Yeah.
But because there are more people that are actually willing to, hold their hand up and go, hang on, I need help.
Yeah.
The services have been used more, which is great. Honestly, I'm not saying that, people that shouldn't be using it, because obviously that's absolutely what they're there for, and they should be using it. But then certain organisations, NHS, the government, whoever, haven't put enough focus on it then to then put what they need in place to be able to use it. So there's not enough people, there isn't enough resource for the amount of people that need it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's across the whole of the NHS, isn't it?
It's across the whole country, that definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Caitlin and I had one of our NHS providers. Oh, that's a practice, don't worry. There we go, it's gone now. We had what our provisions called talking together, and they came and did a talk, and then they said to us, and it's a 48-week wait, and we thought, well, what's the point? Because people
48
present
weeks.
48 weeks, so they present to us, and it'll come out that they've got significant mental health issues, and they could really do with counselling. And it's like, oh yeah, don't worry, just wait a year.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jesus
so
Christ.
I know what I do, and probably Caitlin does exactly the same. Is we try, because we can't find the counselling, we try and find some peer-to-peer support or drop-in groups where at least they don't feel as alone, which is different for a child, very much so. But we deal with a lot of people with a lot of trauma, so there are groups that we can kind of signpost them to and go along with them to they're not getting one-to-one counselling, but they're getting support. So that's our work around here, because there's a massive shortage here as well.
Yeah.
So you've given me 65.
What about sort of like educational resources then, do you think? Are the schools in your areas, are they there? Are they, like my daughter's school was they both were in the red for quite a long time. And my children go to Welsh education, so everything's done through Welsh first. Where they're both out of it now. They've both got brilliant head teachers now, which has brought them out of it. But have you got sort of like anything like that in your areas where maybe the education is not as good?
So, the school that my daughter was at, because she was the actual school itself, it's had its Ofsted reports and everything else, and they'd said it's a fantastic school, but for stuff like that, shocking. Basically, it all stemmed really from COVID. That was the whole thing that kicked it all off for my daughter. So she was terrified to go back to school. The anxiety that she was suffering was absolutely just unbelievable. But she wasn't being able to get back into school full time. She was going part time. So she's ended up that when she's done her GCSEs, she's actually only done her maths, English and science GCSEs because she wasn't in enough to do the other subjects. So the school decided, well, we'll just concentrate on her core subjects, because that's what she needs to carry on then and do any other college course that she wants to do. She needs these core subjects. And they came to me and said that it was the early help that was now going to stand in and help with this. The early help came 6 months before she left school. But she'd been on a part-time table for 2.5 years at that point. So I don't know at what point they can call that early help, when it was 2.5 years after she'd already been doing a part-time timetable. And then they did all sorts of other things. And don't get me wrong, when they put the early help, as they were calling it, in place, they did all sorts. They went off to the education board and saw whether or not she needed any extra help with her actual GCSEs, whether or not it was going to be that she was going to have to do it on a laptop instead of actually having the physical paper in front of her, whether or not she was going to need that. Did she need anybody to help her read the questions and dictate the answers so that they could do it for her, and things like that they do for other students? And that was all great, but that was literally 6 months before she finished school. So she'd been struggling for 2.5 years, and the help wasn't there. We'll put her on the counselling waiting list for school. We have a counsellor at school. She never saw that counsellor once in 3 years.
And why did they say why it took so long?
Just because they haven't got the resources. They haven't got the resources, and because of her age, because of the age she was, I think, when the whole COVID thing was, it was a time where it was kind of all the kids are just hitting puberty. They're all just getting. Then there was this big global, and puberty is bad enough as it is, and then you've got the whole thing where the global pandemic and everything else, and then I think there was just that many of the kids that needed the extra help. They just massively underestimated how much resource they needed, and it just wasn't there. So it's just, the school itself is fantastic. It's not in any kind of special measures or anything else. It's outstanding in all sorts of other areas, but for that, shocking. She's now at college. She's done better now at college in the month and a half, month and 3 weeks that she's actually been at the college. She's done better there. She's progressed more there in that 6 weeks than she did in 3 years at high school.
Is there better support in the college?
And just because the support at college, they literally have a whole department dedicated to that. and they check in with her, and they have counsellors that are literally, you've got an issue, you can go to the office where the counsellors are, and there will be somebody there you can speak to there and then, not hang on, we'll put you on a waiting list and then we'll speak to you. She can speak to that counsellor. She's also got access to the counsellor that I paid for, which I was very fortunate to find, and they are partially, they have got funding from somewhere. I don't know where it wasn't the government, but they've got funding from somewhere. So I actually only had to find 75% of what I needed to pay for the course that she did. But that now they've done extra courses that she's gone and done. She's done like art courses and things with them, just so it's a social, and just to get her used to being in groups, because she really, really struggles to be in groups of people. If it's too busy, she can't cope. So it's just doing that kind of thing just helps her out. But the schools around here, shocking.
Because that can go into a bit of social support then as well, can't it? Yeah. What about like childcare and stuff like that? Is that like readily available in your areas? I know, like I'm not sure if it's across England as well, but in Wales now you can get your 30 hours. So when they're in nursery, you can get your 30 hours now. So I don't know if that's rolled out everywhere. And children's lunches are paid for now as well. So their school lunches, free up to junior school. So the end of junior school. So that sort of takes a financial burden, I think, off parents as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure whether or not we're doing the free school meals, because I mean my youngest is 16, so I have no idea. I've not got any idea about that. I've not kept up with it because it doesn't apply to me immediately. But I haven't heard of anything. I've got nieces and nephews that are of primary school age, but I haven't heard of anything like that. But the hours at nursery, yes, I know that my grandson gets his hours at nursery, and there's loads of nurseries around here as well. You can only walk 10 minutes without falling over another nursery around here, so there's loads of them.
Any sort of things in social support anyone's got?
No, yeah, I'll show up now.
Have you got sort of like, is housing just council in your areas, or have you got housing associations?
We've just got one portal for housing, whether it be social or housing association. It's all one way in, one way out.
Yeah, it's all together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And an absolute nightmare because there isn't any.
No. Is it part of the council or is it a housing?
Yeah, it is.
It's part of the council.
Yeah, it's called Property Pool Plus, and it's all over the Liverpool City region. And there's virtually no other way in unless you're over 55, and you can sometimes get a direct route into sheltered if you're lucky. But that's a real issue here, which it probably is throughout the country as well.
Yeah. And what's your sort of like, do you know the waiting times? I think it's about 10 years in my area.
If you're not fussy and you'll live anywhere and it's just one bedroom, you'll probably be reasonably quick. If you're a family, we deal with families that have been living in hotel rooms for years. So it's actually quite dire. And I don't think that's unique to Wirral. No,
definitely not. Because I think they're building the housing estates that they're building around here at the moment, like your Wimpy's or I can't think of what their name for Simmons, but they've got to have so many council properties as part of the project within Torvine.
I think we're getting something like 2,500 new properties built, but that's a drop in the ocean. When we're with people and we go on and we help, you get banded. Quite often they'll tell you which properties you can bid for, and it'll say if you bid for this property you will be 432 on the list.
Yeah,
but that's for one property, so it's I've got one lady who's been trying to get a new property for 12 years.
Such a long time to wait, isn't it?
Yeah. If your banding isn't high, you've got like priority banding. So Caitlin and I, one of our things that we do is we can look into anything we can possibly find to try and raise the banding. But yeah, it's just the lack of property, and if obviously you need to be in a particular area, it makes it even harder.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so moving on to, I'm going too far. Barriers to accessing services. We've just talked a little bit about, barriers and what we're faced with. So physical barriers might include transportation issues or lack of accessibility to that facility. Cultural barriers, so they may be stigma, they may be language barriers, they may be cultural perceptions. And then information barriers, so lack of awareness. Sometimes staff just simply don't know what's out there. People don't know what they can access and what's out there. So we need to address these barriers, which is key to ensuring that services are generally accessible to everyone. And then by identifying and removing these barriers, we can improve access to the services and ensure staff get the support that they need. So what other barriers do you feel like you've encountered then in your own workplace? Andrew?
Picking on me today.
I picked on you today, yeah.
I think the main barrier in our place is informational barriers, like lack of awareness. So the resources are kind of there, but not many people know about them.
Yeah.
I think that's our main one.
And then do you think communication then would be the next sort of big one? I always feel communication. Sometimes it's really good, isn't it? And then sometimes it's good, but not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, with us, we have like team briefs every day, and nothing kind of gets mentioned in like the team briefs with the staff. So at the moment, the company are doing an employee engagement survey. They do one every year, and we have like a big poster that will go in the staff room where people can scan a QR code, but nothing will get pushed through on, again, like on team briefs or anything to the staff. And like I said, that is a massive barrier. So it kind of, the company are doing things to help, but it's not being filtered down the line.
Yeah.
I think I'd have to agree with communication within this company is probably the thing that we're worse at.
Yeah.
If I'm being brutally honest, I think the communication is the worst thing. I mean, only for the fact that, like earlier on when we were speaking, Andrew, you'd mentioned a couple of things with the financial thing. I didn't have a clue, I don't know what you're talking about. There was two things you mentioned with the financial things, and I haven't got a clue what you're talking about. And I've been here for 12 years, working the same company, and I don't know what you're on about. So if I don't know what you're on about, what's the chances that other people have got a clue what you're on, what you were talking about? So the communication in here is really bad. We're fantastic at plenty of things, like we were saying before about the personal development. Personal development within here and the opportunities that JD will give you for personal development and training is really good. The communication surrounding it, maybe not as much. Every now and again you'll have a big push for it, but then the rest of the time it's like right, push that back in a cupboard and we'll deal with something else. The communication isn't there enough.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually, on the 10-minute break that we just had, I had a member of staff come in trying to deal with their welfare and reasonable adjustments, and they said that they sent an email off about 3 or 4 weeks ago, has heard nothing since about, because obviously some stuff's happened and some things need to be changed. And then I've just got in contact with the person who's dealing with, our HR person, and they apparently had nothing communicated down to them about this welfare thing. And it's like a whole thing. So I was just like, well, okay, then if no one's heard anything, can we just set up a welfare meeting for this employee just to get things sorted?
It's bad. We are really bad at it. As a whole company, it's not even like just one department's fault. It's across the whole thing, for me anyway.
Oh, sorry, my charger's not working. I had to quickly grab another charger. Anyone else? Jamie, have you sort of like seen any barriers?
Yeah, it's similar to the other guys, really, is awareness. As I've mentioned before, to be honest, I don't know much about the kind of things we've got. I would say also transportation in our area, being where we are in Lincolnshire, there's a lot of kind of hard to reach areas, small villages, things like that. So yeah, on top of that, I would say transportation can be a factor there as well.
What about sort of services in those hard to reach places? Would they sort of be lacking as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, part of my role is we do a lot of, well, we've started doing a lot of outreach for the older community and actually the juniors as well. And they are lacking in services. A lot of the stuff they do is voluntary in village halls and things like that. But yeah, with the smaller villages, there doesn't tend to be many kind of services there for them. So they'd have to then come to the towns and the city, which are often kind of 30-minute drives. Some people don't drive, so yeah.
Yeah, so it's hard for them to know what they can or can't access, isn't it?
Yeah.
What about language barriers? Do you have much language barriers in your area?
I wouldn't have thought so, no. From what I've experienced, yeah, we've obviously there will be some here and there, but not overwhelmingly anyway. So
Anyone else sort of got language barriers?
We've got quite a few language barriers because of the amount of people that we help. I'd say definitely in my area, because I cover Birkenhead, which is quite a it has become a little bit of a cultural hub. So there's a whole bunch of people from different backgrounds, different nationalities, different languages, but they still need help with like housing. So trying to have quite involved conversations over Google Translate can get a little bit intense. But with that, there are organisations that are specialised in supporting those people and have interpreters for many different languages. And I mean, we try our best with Google Translate to try to minimise that language barrier. But yeah, there are specific organisations that we will signpost people to say these are the best people suited to supporting you guys in employment and housing and benefits, all those type of things.
Yeah. My when we went on holiday, we went to Gran Canaria and he used Google Translate. Actually, we went on a tour and I wondered what he was doing. He was using Google Translate to talk to us, which I thought it was quite clever. We have got some quite useful tools we can use, haven't we? Any other ones? Any other barriers? Anyone sort of faced or seen? So we're just going to have a little look at mapping local services. So we're sort of see what's out there in your areas, and then map sort of what social, health and educational services are available. So I'm going to put you some breakout rooms again. You can do a little bit of research if you want to, say about 10, 15 minutes to have a little look. And we're just going to try and have a look at what gaps you can identify in your area that might be sort of missing. So it could be lack of mental health support, different charities, working with housing associations, anything that you feel like, transport, anything like that. So have a little look in your areas and then just come back and we'll have a little chat about it then. So happy with what you need to do? I'll try and mix you up a bit if I can. Those ones. And there you go. I think it's put you in one, Jamie, this time.
Oh, great.
I'll see now. I should move you over now. Okay. What was? Oh, man.
Oh,
Hello.
hello.
Whoosh, you're back. Is everyone back? Yeah, I think everyone's back. So what did you sort of discuss then, Andrew and your team?
It was mainly like the barriers that was put in place. So I'll mention obviously about transport can be a massive barrier in areas like where I am as well, but also like housing as well. Where like I think it was either Caitlin or Victoria mentioned obviously with some of their council that if in some circumstances you could be offered like one place and then if you refuse it then that's it. So obviously like council barriers and stuff as well.
Yeah, definitely.
We
Yeah.
had a, yeah, although Caitlin and I do the same role, we work in two very different areas. So Caitlin's quite asset rich because she's in the town centre, whereas I'm away out, and we have a massive issue with getting people to support because then I use the example of we've got a lot of refugee families that are living on £45 a week. And when you tell someone they need to go and access something and it's £2 there and £2 back, well, that's a big chunk out of their money. So that can be a real issue for us.
And what sort of things have you got in place that could help with that?
Well, we'll try and find them bicycles. That's literally the only thing we can do.
Yeah,
There is nothing else.
yeah. And the refugees, are they from other countries or our countries?
Mixture. Had some from Northern Ireland, but a lot more at the moment are from Iran. That's what they tend to come to an area where there's more Iranians in.
Yeah,
So there is some local support built up. Like for instance, one of the churches has started doing like a little refugee lunch, so they're getting a bit of peer-to-peer support for each other, like building a little bit of a community. And although it isn't far into the town centre, obviously, it normally falls to the dad if it's the family that goes in, because otherwise that's £8, isn't it, if you're paying for himself and his wife to get there and back. We have got family hubs as well, so if they have got young children, got a lot of them that can be walked to, so we will signpost towards that. Other organisations other than our own sometimes have pots of money that can help pay for transport. Sometimes, like even if it's bus tickets. But yeah, really, that is a big barrier here for most of the people
and
who
I
aren't
suppose
working in the town.
the language barrier as well.
Yeah, again, all the organisations that are there to help support people with language barriers are based in town. So again, it's still that financial barrier of trying to get them into town to access it, really.
Yeah. And what are the sort? I know you said you mentioned bikes, but is there other sort of partnerships that you work with to try and fill the gaps?
I don't personally know of any.
No.
No, there's none in Birkenhead because transport is private, isn't it?
Yeah.
They and we can't make the bus companies give
No.
bus.
No.
We can't
so-
give lifts either, which would make our lives easier, but we're not insured to give people lifts. So we can say we can meet you here to give you the support, but you've got to make your own way.
Yeah.
That's the barrier that we flag up to try and help.
We try to do home visits as much as we can for those who have mobility issues, but we have to do those in twos for safeguarding. And if you can't find someone whose diary matches up with you, normally your teammate can, but it's one of those, we'll only do that if there is like severe mobility issues or things like that.
And any other sort of barriers you picked up on? No. What about Angela and Jamie's group?
Yeah, we
I
was
can talk
talking
if you
about
want, but it's up to you.
communication.
Oh, go on, I'll let you do it.
Yeah, most of ours was talking about the information really, and kind of making colleagues and staff members aware of what help there is available. And specifically to where I live, was transport was an issue, whereas with Angela it wasn't much of a problem. So yeah, those were the main two that we spoke about.
And what sort of things then what resources could you sort of access then to make it easier or try and fill that gap?
As in the transport really. They do have buses and things like that. We've got obviously a rail network nearby, but it's the smaller villages really. So it's I'm not aware of anything else we could kind of use, apart from your buses and things. But yeah.
What about yourself, Angela? Did you sort of pick anything different?
No, I mean, like it was saying, it's like transport for me in this area isn't that big of a problem. There's a tram stop about, like I said, about a 5-minute walk from where we're based here at Kingsway. Excuse me. So the motorway is probably about 3 minutes from here. So you've got the M62 that's 3 minutes away from Kingsway. It's not that big of a deal. We're about half an hour outside of Manchester city centre, so it's not that big a thing for us. We can, most people around here, they've got the access to the transport. So transport definitely wasn't a barrier for us. Housing was definitely a barrier. Similar thing to I think what Vicky was saying before, with it's a bidding system. So when you want a house, you have to bid on it, but it depends on how far up the priority list you are to whether or not you're getting it. Like I also said in the group, it's my niece is sharing a bunk bed at the minute with her 8-year-old son. She's 31. And she's sharing a bunk bed with her son because her relationship with his dad broke down and she's had to move back in with her mother, but they've only got the one room, so she's sharing a bunk bed. She's 31, sharing a bunk bed with her 8-year-old, and it's been that way for 15 months. And as far as I know, she's no further up the list for her house, flat, whatever. It's not that she would love to have a garden for him to play in, but she'd also love for him to have his own bedroom and his own space, because then that's great for both their mental health. And I can only imagine there's plenty of other families that are in exactly the same position, because there just isn't the housing around here. So one of the biggest things for us is housing. I know of people in JD that I've spoken to that are living in shared accommodation, where they're literally living in a room in a house. So they're doing a house share because they've come up from wherever whichever country they may have come over from. And because we have pretty much every nationality under the sun in here, which is great, but they're then, they're house sharing because they can't afford to get somewhere of their own private rented. And like I said, the council housing association are just inundated with people that need houses, so that they're having to house share. So it's great that then, though, it's bad but good at the same time sometimes, because I've heard it off from both sides where they've said, I don't feel like I've got my own space, but I've also had people saying that they feel like they're within their own little community within that house and they're all friends. So even though they're only in one room in the communal area, they are sitting there and they're like their own little support network then within that house. So it's good in one sense, but then bad in another sense. So I think that the biggest thing is the housing for us. In at this particular area, it would probably be the housing.
Yeah. So we've learned then about mapping services and identifying the gaps. So we looked at mapping services which help us see the full range of support available to people, and identifying the gaps, which allows us to address issues before they become a barrier. But I know we can't always address like housing issues. It's not really something we can address ourselves, is it? We can try and help to find other support, but it's not always something that we can actually help with, is it? So by going through this process, we've gained a clearer understanding of where improvements can be made for wellbeing, and then what approaches to assure that people have that access and be able to find those resources that they need to survive, I suppose. Any questions on activity 9? No. So what we'll look at now is we'll look at the duty 3. So this is providing informed advice. So meaning we're not just offering general suggestions, but we're researching and we're going to look at data to offer well-rounded practical advice to staff or the public, whoever you're working with. So informed advice involves using the information we've gathered through research, service mapping and feedback to make specific recommendations. And our goal is to ensure that staff have access to the right services at the right time, which can greatly improve their well-being. So the aims are to provide staff or people who work for with informed practical advice based on thorough research and service mapping. And then the objective is to ensure that they know what services are available and how to access them. And we'll also try to identify the gaps in the services. So looking at your task, so I have sent out the task, which, where have I got it? I've got it on one of them. Let me just show you that one. So you've got this task here, which is on Bud. Now I have copied that into a Word document and sent out. So if you need me to send it out again, I've just done that so you can copy and paste it. So if you want to do some research on Google, it just makes it a bit easier. So what you need to do is step 1 is research and documentation. So you're going to conduct thorough research within your organisation to identify statutory and voluntary services. And then you're going to create a document listing these services, their scope, and how they are accessed, and maybe any costs that they might have. So the more thorough you research and document, the better equipped you'll be to guide staff towards right services. On Bud, so if I bring up Bud, there is some examples at the bottom. So once you've got that activity step-by-step sheet, at the bottom there's a couple of examples. So you can have a little look at those examples just to make sure you're on the right track with this duty, okay? Then you're going to look at step 2, which is service mapping, and you're going to use a strength-based approach to map available services and identify gaps, and then create a visual representation like a flow chart or something of how these services are interconnected. So how do they sort of connect to each other? You know, what process would you take for them? Step 3, you're going to do a survey and feedback analysis. So you're going to design a survey, and I'd probably send that out to at least 10 just to get some good feedback. If you can do more, I'd do more. And then you're going to analyse that feedback to identify key trends and areas for improvement. Any questions so far? No. And then 4, you're going to create an action plan for development. So then develop an action plan based on research mapping and the survey analysis, and include your strategies for improving communication and promotion of these services. So hopefully by developing a clear plan, you can ensure that any gaps in services are addressed. So you could sort of like get a map of your area and sort of dot where things are in that area as well. So you might have like a hospital, or you might have your doctors, you might have a dentist, the schools, you could sort of map as well. She's just sort of looking in your area of what actually is out there, what mental health is out there, maybe counselling services, and then any lack of stuff. So stuff like recreation stuff, if you've got stuff like that. So for teens, if they got somewhere they can go for some support, to see some, you know, friends outside of school, not just being in the education area. It's looking at what's out there altogether. And then evidence. So once you've done your steps, you just need some supporting evidence, and that's just going to support it. So you can have stuff like, you know, what you've researched. It could be you've done a bit of Google research. You can also take a screenshot of what you've researched. If you've made any notes from the course, you know, from today or when you've done your learning, you could take some pictures of those as well. You need a service map, any survey tools that you've done. So if you've done some surveys, if you've used paper copies, Google ones, or Monkey Surveys, another good one, anything that you've used, make sure you've got some filled in surveys in there though to show your answers as well. Then you've got your developed action plan, your reflective journal. So you can do your reflective journal, your learner journal from the back of this meeting. So it's just a bit of reflection on what you've learnt over the 3 activities, and then the recap, and then your presentation slides. So you do have to do a presentation as well, which is part 5. Okay. So hopefully from that one, you should know, learn how to research services, map them and gather feedback from staff to provide informed advice, and then discuss how to develop an action plan that addresses any gaps in service provisions and promotes better access. So you need to apply these methods to improve staff access to wellbeing services, and then use your findings to make the action plan. And then hopefully by improving awareness and access to wellbeing services, you can contribute to creating a healthier and more supportive working environment. So what you need to do now is make a start on duty 3, and that one, it's giving you about 5 weeks to complete it, and then that should hopefully give you enough time to collect all the evidence as well to support it. If you can do your online learning session, which is just your learner journal, and then that gives you a chance on Bud to log your hours for this session, and just a little bit of a reflection on what you've learned from activities 7, 8 and 9, and then making a start on duty 3. And then you also need to complete activities 10, 11 and 12 in time for our next workshop, which is on the